Mr. Chair, I move the Senate now adjourn. Aye.
All right, a little confusion there as the Michigan Senate session came to an abrupt ending yesterday, adjourning before they could vote on a plan to dole out checks to Michigan taxpayers. The state House narrowly passed the measure just hours earlier.
But while Senate Democrats were in a meeting, Republicans adjourned the issue until next week. To sort it all out, we're joined by two state senators tonight, Democrat and Majority Whip Mallory McMorrow and Republican Jim Runestad of White Lake.
Senators, thank you so much for joining us. Senator McMorrow, I will start with you. Can you break down what is in the bill that you did not get a chance to vote on?
There is so much in the bill. It includes funding to repeal the retirement tax, something that people have been asking for since the Snyder administration. It includes an expansion of the EITC, the Earned Income Tax Credit, which would help thousands of families around the state. Also includes $180 immediate relief checks for every taxpayer, as well as a permanent funding source for an economic development tool called the SOAR Fund, with a permanent funding source for housing and community development, as well as revitalization and placemaking.
So, Senator Runestad, let me go to you for a rebuttal on that. You're calling for an income tax rate cut instead of the checks. Why do you want to go that route?
Well, Senator McMorrow is absolutely correct. There's a lot in there, and there's a reason there's a lot in there. It's called the omnibus. When you have an omnibus is when you stuff everything in that you probably couldn't get voted through individually. So you gush it all in there. You have no committee meetings, no transparency, not even allowing speeches, and you smash it through with a lone one Republican vote. So yeah, there was a reason that this was pushed through, and the main reason was that we were scheduled to roll back the income tax for every person here in the state of Michigan that pays income tax. The Democrats were desperate to keep the spending trough full, so they wanted to stop that income tax rollback. And the way they were going to do it is they took that $180 crumbs, put it all together to about $800 million, put that in, and that dropped the threshold to stop the trigger from people here in Michigan from getting their income tax cut. That was what this was all about, and that was the reason. There was no transparency, no committee, nothing, just smashing it through so that everybody can vote for it and then read about this giant package afterward and find out what's in it.
So some might view the Republican maneuver to prevent this vote as sort of a trick, but it's not the first time this has happened.
That's right.
In the legislature. Explain what exactly did happen and why you think it's fair or not.
Well, twice before, under Senator Hertel and Senator Gretchen Whitmer, this tactic was used. Then it was just a delaying tactic for no reason. Here, this was done because there was no transparency on this giant omnibus spending squanderbus plan. So we want the people, just like tonight, the people out there, this is the first time they're hearing about this. They wouldn't know anything about it if we hadn't stopped that vote yesterday. So this is given an opportunity, just like we're having tonight, for transparency that ought to have happened through this whole thing so that people would know what's in this monstrous big bill.
Senator McMorrow, let's get your response to that. Senator Runestad saying there's a lot trying to be pushed through with no transparency. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, I think it's cute, especially after I spent my first 4 years in the minority when I introduced 49 bills and not a single one ever got a hearing. There was no transparency. We didn't know what was on the agenda. But voters decided with a loud voice in 2022 that it was time for new leadership. So we've been negotiating this package along with the governor, with leaders in both the Republican and Democratic caucuses in both the House and the Senate to come to something that really addresses immediate need for those who are impacted most by inflation. What the Republicans are proposing is it was a cute, fun trick. We'll come back to work on Tuesday and vote. But it was a cowardly refusal to vote for people to get the immediate relief that they need right now. What the trigger, the income tax reduction trigger would do that Republicans are pushing for would benefit the wealthiest Michiganders disproportionately and give somebody like a single mom only about $16 a year, which is not what we need to do right now. Those who are impacted by inflation are the people who are trying to put food on the table, those who are trying to buy their first house, those who are squeezed by mortgage rates that are going up, and those are the people that we need to help most.
So you'll be back on Tuesday to vote. Tell us what is next for this legislation, and is there any room for compromise, or do you think that will even be necessary?
So it's been fascinating to me. You know, we are talking as the Democratic majority right now about tax relief. And this is something that there has been bipartisan work on. We have worked with our Republican colleagues. Republicans have put up bills related to the EITC and the retirement tax. This is the result of that compromise. And what the income tax trigger would do long term is go back to a time before COVID, before we had this one-time federal relief surplus, to where we're going to have to cut programs, where we're going to have to cut funding to resources that people desperately need, just to give the wealthiest Michiganders more money back in their pockets.
Senator Runestad, is there a possible compromise in maybe a smaller tax cut and smaller relief checks?
We're sitting with the people of Michigan need to know $9 billion, the largest surplus the state of Michigan has ever seen. $9 billion sitting there. And they say we can't give this little bit of tax relief to people when they're suffering this Biden inflation. They're going to the grocery store and said, my God, the prices are going up higher and higher. They can't give this ongoing tax cut to the people here in the state of Michigan. Could there have been a bipartisan plan? Absolutely. We were open to all discussions on all of these plans. That wasn't what they did. In the House, they smashed it through in this big omnibus, big spending program, and that's what they wanted to vote through on Thursday. I am so glad we had tonight this opportunity to inform the people what's actually in there. Could have been some great things done? Absolutely. They are not interested in that. There was no committees, no discussions. This was smashed through so that everybody can find out after it's passed what's in it.
So really help us to envision what is next. Will you have to whip up any votes, or is it just going to be along party lines and that'll be that?
You know, I really encourage my Republican colleagues who have been rightfully pointing out that people are suffering from inflation right now. If we can vote this through, we have the votes in our caucus, we will vote it through on the policy front. There's something called immediate effect, which is a wonky policy that we do need 6 Republican votes to vote to give this immediate effect. If they don't vote for that, there are no checks. The retroactiveness of the EITC to allow filers to file in the 2022 fiscal year to get that relief doesn't happen. So people who need the help right now won't get it.
And to follow up, do you believe they will have those 6 votes from your party?
If we don't vote for this omnibus squander bill that was all stuffed together, and we stopped this and allowed the tax breaks to go through, everybody would get checks. They would get benefit from having their income tax reduced. And then all of these other plans, and we're open to a discussion, need to go through committee, need to go through the regular process, which was denied.
I just want to clarify once more, the wealthiest Michiganders will get the most amount of money, and a single mom will get $16.
All right, thank you very much, Senator McMorrow, Senator Runestad, for joining us tonight.
Absolutely. We will keep following this legislation and any movements in the days to come.